I'm Matthew with Gargistic. Thanks for joining us on the Gargistic YouTube channel. Today we got a lot of stuff to cover on these rear subframes for your E30. We're going to talk about a lot of things. We're going to talk about diff reinforcements, camber and toe, subframe bushings, and just adjustment on being able to align the rear of your E30 with these kind of modifications. So let's get into it. So first we want to kind of, start with a bushing that's, often neglected, but definitely at the age of these E30s, you should definitely go ahead and try to replace, because at this age, they're shot, and even when they're brand new, they have a lot of play in them and a lot of float. So the whole subframe kind of like just moves around, and that's the rear subframe bushing. Now, we make the rear subframe bushing in a two-part design, a lower and an upper, and if you're installing them, the thick side is on the top and the thin side is on the bottom. We also have these in a raised subframe bushing form, which would raise the subframe and alleviate some negative camber, and in that particular setup, the thin bushing will be on the top and the thick one will be on the bottom. Now, we did do some recent improvements to these bushings to make it a little bit easier with all of our supporting modifications. One of those modifications is the diameter of this bushing is actually now thinner on the lip side of it. And the reason for that is that now when you come to install your camber and toe bolts, you basically, before with the big subframe bushings, you would have to notch these, and that's what we did for customers in the past. We would notch them for them, but we just ended up coming out with a better design that ended up actually just making the diameter of these much smaller so that you can get your wrench on your camber and toe adjusters. Now, this rear subframe is part of our core exchange program, but it is possible for you to do this modifications yourself. Basically, these will allow the rear of your E30 to be aligned, and they're the camber and toe brackets. That's these ones. So basically, in a core exchange program, we sandblast them, we weld these on, we get it so you can align your subframe. If you buy our subframe bushings, we press them in free of charge. But we also sell all of these components separately for the guys that can weld and do it yourself for guys. So we do sell all of these in the links below. Now, basically what these allow is your factory subframe only has basically room for a one bolt. It's not slotted, it's no way to align the rear of your E30. So what you have to do is basically weld these on, and what you end up doing, and it's by preference, this is just what we found to be best, that the inner mounting points to adjust camber. So you would weld them so that this side is up and down. And what we have found is that we make the factory hole ends up being the very bottom of that slot, so that way you can only do positive adjustment, because the E30 has inherently a lot of negative camber as it is. So if you want more negative camber, you would do the opposite way around, where the hole is on the very top of this. After you basically weld them on, you would have to then slot them by taking a grinder and some grease and actually going to town on slotting those subframes. So when you're done, it should look something like this. And then you would be able to use two types of hardware, either E39 OEM hardware, or you would be able to use our Gargistic eccentric hardware, which is a little bit more budget friendly. So here's where you get a lot of toe adjustment, basically because you put these brackets facing this way horizontally, so that way when you weld them on, you basically have the bolt basically moving back and forth. And now that the bushing is smaller, you have room to get your wrench in on there. Another adjustment that we did to this to make this subframe bushing design a little bit nicer is we actually now recess this region right here, so that way your factory OEM washer, there's a big washer that fits on there, it can fit on there now. So that was a good thing on an upgrade that we did as well. For the camber adjustment, it's very, very similar. All you have to do is, now that those camber and toe brackets are welded vertically, you'll see the motion that this would create as well. So you can see that it's moving now up and down, just like that. And what that's doing is it's moving the trailing arm just like that, so that way you can move your camber positive or negative. Now, while you're in there, you should really take the time to reinforce your differential mounting points. On your differential mounting points, these tend to tear out, and it's just not just in high-powered cars, just from use from over and over and over again. A lot of cycles have been through this metal, so it's definitely a good idea to go ahead and reinforce these mounting points. And that's very simple to do. All you have is your ears over here and your two mounting points up top. And what this basically does, these are all 4 mounting points that hold on your differential. Now we sell a diff stud kit to make that easier, to install your diff into your subframe. So that's be something that would be very popular while you're in there as well. Again, this is one of those things where if you want to do it yourself, all these components will be in the links below. Or if you want a core exchange program where you don't want to do this, you just want to give us your subframe and we modify and send it back, or you want to keep your car intact, we modify a subframe that we have in-house and we send it to you, and when you get a chance, you send your core back. And that's how we keep the program alive, by receiving other people's cores. If you're interested in that, go ahead and check out the links below. Thanks. Oh, that's a sweet splinter. All right, ready to go.